In the name of Allah, in last session we spoke about PHP loops. And we talked about three kinds of loops: do while loop, and for loop. Today we will learn the newest loop in PHP that you are not familiar with and not work it with that on your Java, neither on your C++. But today we'll learn the for each loop that's specific for and PHP, Laravel, and I think it's also available in JavaScript too. Well, I haven't worked on JavaScript, so maybe available or not, but we don't have them on Java and C++, but we have it on C Sharp. I worked on C Sharp on that. We have in C Sharp, but we don't have it in others. But in PHP, we have it and it's necessary for each loop. So, what's for each loop? The for each loop loops have a block of code for each element in an array or each property in an object. So, we use for each loop to iterate or read the array elements or the object elements. The three other types were we were testing some conditions. Yeah, but then for each we are looping through array elements and also elements of objects. Elements of objects. So the for each loop on arrays. The for each loop on arrays. How we can use the for each loop on arrays? Very simply, you must have an array. You must have an array. And then you can loop trap that array. So the syntax is you write for each. Then variable or the array. Enough. So for each loop is for iteration of loops arrays. We have an array that's colors and that colors has some elements red, green, blue, yellow. When we want to display these colors one by another, then we use the for each loop. So how the for each loop works? You need the write the for each keyword without space, without any space. Then the array, then array as a new variable. The as keyword and the new name for your array. The new name for your array. In database systems, we mostly use for each. For displaying data, we use the for each loop. When we call some data from the database, then we store that on an array and we loop against that array to load our data, on websites. So as a practical project, let me see where is the some data. I think I had some Nemo. Yeah, open with IntelliJ as a project. So let's define an array. First, let's define an indexed array. Indexed array, not an associative array. We want to define an indexed array. So we need to name this as a colors maybe or something else, anything that you find. Then the array, and then the parentheses, and inside the parentheses you put the elements like red. This is the index 0. This one, the next one, index 1, blue. The next one, index 2, like green. Index 3 up to end of that. So I think there are 4 elements enough up to index number 3, like yellow. So this is our array. Now we need to show this data. We need to show this. The first system of showing this was the color and then assigning the index of this. We can access this like that with index number. We can access without array, without loop, the array elements using the index numbers, So for maybe we have more than 1,000 elements, in an array. This way will generate lots of errors and it's lots of codes to write. But for doing in an easy way, we have for each, for each, and then our arrays colors as a new variable like T or something else. Then open the block of for each and write your statements what you want to do. So we want to loop against them. We need to echo. Then we need to write T. Only T is enough, I think, and also an BR. BR. We need to write a BR also. So now we can loop this. Let's see. Test for. So we need to comment our previous lesson for better management. So yes, enough. Yeah. Now red, blue, green, yellow. These are the array elements. You can access that using the index also. But that one will take lots of time. If you have an array with more than 1,000 of elements, that will take lots of memory and also needs lots of codes to write to access every array on a specific index number using the specific number. Where is this T? $T is the new variable name for this because one reference this to this one. So this T means the colors array. We are getting the colors as T, not the colors itself. This is the syntax because we need to array a new variable for this, which as a reference, referencing one variable to another one. That's a reference. T is reference to colors. We generate the T value. So we don't do the colors here. We don't do the color. You can put the colors also like this again, but that's not good practice. That's not a good practice. You should avoid using this. That's also generates same code, but that's not recommended. You must use a new. So in here, let me show you. Yeah, let me show you some uses of this one, like students index. You see, we have for each. Is this visible or not? So there's Laravel, but Laravel is our PHP. We get some data from our database that comes as a variable of students. Then we take back it as a student. Comes as students, we get it as a student. Then we loop against its values. That comes from an associative array. This one comes from an associative array. Why? Because in our controller, a student's controller, an index section, if you see that we are getting information. We are getting information on different cases. If the user is student, gets this data, else this data should be inserted. And then sends the student's variable to our view. And in here, we get this as an associative array. As an associative array, and we insert, we display the keys. The key will generate as the values. The same way we do in PHP, pure PHP, we use the for each. But in Laravel, we have an add notation that generates this one. But in Laravel, we have a new loop that's for else. If a loop is empty, it will generate something else. The same way like if else does. If condition comes false, else ports will generate something. The same way you have for else on here. So this was the index, the arrays on the indexed array. Another is the key and values, the associative array. How you can use the associative array. For associative arrays or generally for objects, you need define as a key and pair, key and value pair. You need to define as a key and value pair. This one, Peter is the key, 35 is the value. Ben is the key, 37 is the value. This is a single element. And this is another element. In database, we can call this the column name and this is the record. This is the column name, this is the record that we get. When we select something on from our database, then we get something like information like this. So for associative array, you need to write as a key and value pair. As a key and value pair. And this is the array above is an indexed array, where the first item has the key 0, the second has the key 1, and so on. But this one was the indexed array. They are stored as a index first, from 0 up to how many elements we have. But this one is the associative array. This one is the associative array. So what's associative? Associative arrays are different. Associative arrays use named keys that you assign to them. Instead of indexes, we have names. We are not using 0, 1, 2, 3 for accessing the elements. We are using the keys for accessing them. So they are use the keys that are assigned to them. And when looping through associative arrays, you may want to keep the keys as well as the value. If you want to keep the keys also, you can use the keys and values together. This can be done by specifying both the key and value in the for each definition like this. So if you want to keep key and value both, then you can use this way. As and then x, the key, and y, the value. Or key and value. There's x and key, x and y. That's actually x is the key, y is the value. Y is the value. So for each loop for this, let's see and copy this for less consumption of time. So let's print this. Now it says Peter 35, Ben 37. Why the keys coming here? Why the keys are coming here? Because we have used that. We said the keys and values should be available. The keys and values should be available. So we access them like this, x and y. If we have only the keys will be printed. If we have only the values will be printed. That's depending to you want to use both or not. But mostly we use the key to access the value. We use the key to access the value. So another is the for each loop. So we'll come on arrays next chapter. I think it's after this one. After functions, we have arrays. After learning about functions, on Thursday we will learn arrays. Tomorrow we will learn about functions. On Thursday we will learn on arrays. So the for each loop on objects. We learned the objects in previous session. The object is also a type of, we can say this also an array, but it's a bit different. We can loop against the objects also. So our object is coming from a class, with some values. The same way we do the associative array, we do for objects too. So my car is an object of the car class. My car is an object of the car class. Actual codes in the car. The main constructor of this one takes two values, two arguments, that's color and model, and we can print them. So this is the color and the wool, the values. We can put the colors and the values or any elements that we have. So we'll come on the classes up in advanced PHP, the files and others, and also PHP. OP in PHP. I hope we reach them, but if you didn't, you must learn it by yourself. You must learn them by yourself because you have the medium. You have the W3 schools, and also I sent to you videos. You must use from that. So we can use the break and also the continue statements as we did in for and while else. You can use the break and continue also. The break and continue also. So these are the elements and the statements about the for each loop. So for tomorrow, you should bring a mini project. So the last mini project you felt you didn't brought that. No one brought. No one brought the last project. For the next project, you should create some arrays, associative arrays, indexed arrays, and then loop on them. So then loop on them, and tomorrow I will get from you. It's better to send me on WhatsApp and let me check it. If you run with yourself in class, you will check on the class if your arrays or for loops are correct or not. So another is for each by reference. For each by reference. When looping trap the array items, any changes done to the array item will be default, not affect the original array. When you are looping an array and you are changing something on array, that change will not take effect to the main array. It will change only in the loop, not in the main. So how it is? So you want to like this, if the element reached blue or a different or any specific index, you want to change that. So as the example says, when the x comes to blue, the x should print pink instead of blue. This change is not going to be done on this array. This is a virtual change. This is a time limited or virtual change. Why? Because we are not changing the array itself. We are just changing the display item. We are changing the display item. After execution, this will destroy. Every time you execute the task, it will be printing pink, but the main thing is blue. The main thing is blue. Why blue? Because we have mentioned that if the x reaches to blue, then change that to pink. Change that to pink. Like this. Very simply, you can put an if. If, as we did in previous lesson, to using break and continue. Reaching a specific number, then you can break or continue. The same way you can change the array element, but not the actual element. Only virtually. Virtually you can change. Like this. If x, so we have colors, equal to like green. And instead of green, print me colors equal to like black. It will print only this one, but it will not change this screen. It will not change this screen. Let's load it. If you see, instead of green, we have black, but the main element is green. The main element is green. We just changing the according a condition. We just changing according a condition, not the actual element. As it says that it will not affect the original array. It will not affect the original because array is on itself. Arrays on its place is not changing. So, but by using the add character, the AND character for each calculation, the array item is assigned by reference, which results in any changes done in the array item will also be done in the original array. If you are referencing using the AND or you are addressing the array, they change to array. So if you are using this ampersand symbol, that's an AND or a reference, if you put this one, it will change the array element also. It will change the array element also. So how? You can assign this. You can assign the ampersand to change the array. Why? Because we have referenced it. We have referenced this. It says that by assigning the array items by reference, changes will affect the original array. Changes will affect the original array. How it will affect? Let's see. Just 1%. If you put 2, it means AND. Logical AND. So let's refresh it. So, the actual element also will be affected. The actual element will get affected. And the other places, if you use the array, that will change the value. It will not change your code, but the value. When you are using the array, it will change the array. It will change our array. We have an alternative syntax also, as we had for while. You can use the syntax of PLSQL, the wordings. Instead of the characters, symbols, you can use the words for each and for each.